Clara Bennett took a deep breath as she parked her car in front of her sister Olivia's quaint, two-story house. The familiar scent of pine trees and freshly cut grass wafted through the open window, bringing a mixture of nostalgia and anxiety flooding back. It had been years since she had returned to her hometown, a place filled with memories of laughter, warmth, and, in recent years, heartache. The weight of her pregnancy made her feel heavier than ever, almost as if the life growing inside her was a reminder of everything she had lost. As she stepped out of the car, the gravel crunched beneath her shoes, each step echoing in the stillness of the early afternoon. Clara looked around, her gaze tracing the outlines of the trees lining the street, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. The houses, with their familiar pastel colors and white picket fences, stood as silent witnesses to her childhood. Yet, the comfort of familiarity was overshadowed by the memories of her marriage to Ethan, a self-centered man whose ambition had driven them apart. She had thought that love could conquer all, but as she stood there, it felt more like a distant fantasy. "Clara," Olivia's voice broke through her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. Her sister appeared at the door, a welcoming smile illuminating her face, her curly hair bouncing with each step. Clara felt a rush of relief wash over her as Olivia enveloped her in a warm embrace. "Hey, sis," Clara whispered, her voice slightly muffled against Olivia's shoulder. "Come in. You must be exhausted from the drive," Olivia said, leading Clara inside. The moment Clara crossed the threshold, she felt a sense of safety wash over her, a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil she had left behind. The living room was cozy, filled with soft cushions and family photos that adorned the walls. Clara's eyes landed on a picture of the two of them as children, grinning widely at the camera, their arms wrapped around each other. A pang of bittersweet nostalgia hit her as she remembered the innocence of those days, a time before the complications of adult life had settled in. "Sit down. I'll make us some tea," Olivia said, her voice filled with warmth. Clara sank into the plush sofa, letting the cushions cradle her. She glanced around the room, taking in the comforts of home, and for the first time in a long while, she felt the weight on her shoulders lighten, if only slightly. "Thanks, Liv. I really appreciate this," Clara said, her voice barely above a whisper. Olivia returned with 2 steaming mugs, placing one in front of Clara before taking a seat across from her. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just glad you're here. How are you holding up?" she asked, concern etching her features. Clara took a sip of her tea, the warmth seeping into her bones. "Honestly, I'm a mess," she confessed, her gaze dropping to the mug in her hands. "I thought I could handle everything on my own, but now, with the baby coming and everything that happened with Ethan, I don't know what to expect." Olivia leaned forward, her eyes softening. "You're not alone, Clara. You've got me, and I'm here for whatever you need. It's okay to feel scared. This is a huge transition. It's just so overwhelming," Clara admitted, her voice trembling. "I thought I'd be excited about becoming a mother, but all I can think about is how I'll do this without a partner. Ethan, he was supposed to be there. I never wanted to be a single mother." Olivia reached across the table, placing her hand over Clara's. "You're stronger than you think. Remember, you're the one who left him. You chose to put yourself and your baby first. That took courage," she reminded her, squeezing Clara's hand gently. "I know, but it feels like every time I think I've made the right choice, I'm reminded of the mess I'm in. I'm not just worried about being a mother. I'm afraid of failing, of repeating the mistakes of my past," Clara said, tears brimming in her eyes. "Clara, you're not repeating any mistakes. You're starting a new chapter, and you have a chance to do things differently," Olivia said, her voice steady and comforting. "Just take it one day at a time." Clara took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "You're right. I need to focus on what's important. My baby." As they sat together, Clara felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. A hope that perhaps she could navigate this next chapter, even if it meant doing so alone. But as the conversation shifted to lighter topics, Clara's phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking the momentary peace. "Who is it?" Olivia asked, glancing at the screen. Clara hesitated before reaching for her phone. The name displayed brought an unexpected twist to her stomach. Kyle. He was a mutual friend of theirs, someone who had been close to both her and Ethan. With a mix of trepidation and curiosity, she answered the call. "Hey, Kyle," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Clara, I'm so glad you picked up. I just wanted to check in on you," Kyle said, his voice warm but carrying an undercurrent of concern. "I heard you're back in town. How are you doing?" "I'm okay, I guess. Just trying to find my footing again," Clara replied, glancing at Olivia, who listened intently. "I heard about the split with Ethan. I can't believe he let you go like that, especially with everything you have going on," Kyle said, his tone shifting to a more serious note. "Yeah, well, it's complicated," Clara said, feeling the familiar sting of disappointment at the mention of Ethan's name. "What about you? How have you been?" "I've been good, just keeping busy. But listen, I wanted to let you know that Ethan, he's been struggling since you left. He's not the same, Clara. He's really been taking it hard," Kyle said, choosing his words carefully. Clara's heart softened at the mention of Ethan's struggle, but she quickly guarded her emotions. "I appreciate you telling me, but it doesn't change anything. It was for the best," she said, her voice firm. "I get that. I just think he's realizing what he lost. He wants to reach out, you know," Kyle continued, hesitating as if gauging her reaction. "Why are you telling me this, Kyle?" Clara asked, her heart racing. "Did he ask you to call me?" "No, it's just, I care about both of you, and I think there's still a chance for him to make things right. I don't want to see you two throw away everything just because of a rough patch," Kyle said, his voice softening. Clara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of Kyle's words. She wanted to believe that there was still a chance, but the pain of betrayal and loss loomed large. "I don't think it's that simple. I have a lot to figure out right now, Kyle. I just don't know if I can trust him again. Just think about it. Okay? You deserve to be happy, Clara." "You both do," Kyle said before they exchanged goodbyes and hung up. Setting her phone down, Clara felt a swirl of emotions: confusion, anger, and a strange sense of longing. She glanced at Olivia, who was watching her intently. "What did he say?" Olivia asked, her voice cautious. "Ethan's struggling. Kyle thinks he wants to reach out," Clara admitted, her mind racing. Olivia raised an eyebrow. "And how do you feel about that?" "I don't know, Liv. Part of me feels sad for him, but I can't forget what happened. I don't know if I can trust him again," Clara said, the weight of the conversation pressing down on her. "Trust takes time to rebuild. You've been through a lot, but you can't ignore your feelings. You need to do what's best for you and the baby," Olivia advised, her tone gentle but firm. Clara nodded, feeling the familiar tug-of-war within her heart. The journey ahead was uncertain, and the shadows of her past would not easily fade. But with Olivia by her side, she felt a flicker of strength igniting within her, a determination to face whatever came next, whether it was a battle with her own heart or the challenges of motherhood. And perhaps, just perhaps, there was still a chance to reclaim what she had lost. Ethan sat on the edge of his bed in the dim light of his empty apartment, the walls echoing with memories that felt more like ghosts than comforts. The furniture was sparse, a stark contrast to the life he once shared with Clara. A worn-out couch, a coffee table cluttered with unreturned calls and unanswered messages, and a small dining table that had been reduced to a makeshift desk. He glanced around, taking in the remnants of his former life, pictures of happier times, now draped in dust and sadness. A framed photograph of Clara, radiant and laughing, caught his eye, and a pang of guilt twisted in his chest. "Why did I let it get this far?" he murmured, running a hand through his disheveled hair. The silence of the apartment was deafening, amplifying every regret that lingered in his mind. He thought back to the last argument they had, the hurtful words exchanged in anger and frustration. Clara had been pregnant then, and yet he had been so consumed by his ambition and self-importance that he hadn't even noticed the toll it was taking on her. Ethan retrieved his phone from the bedside table, hesitating as he scrolled through his contacts. He thought about Clara and how she must be feeling, alone in their old hometown, facing the daunting prospect of single motherhood. Memories flooded back. The warmth of her smile, the way her eyes sparkled with determination. He had loved that about her, but in his pursuit of success, he had failed to nurture that love, to be the partner she needed. Suddenly, the phone buzzed, jolting him from his reverie. It was Kyle, their mutual friend. Ethan answered, his heart racing with hope. "Kyle, I need your help," he said, urgency threading through his voice. "Ethan, what's going on?" Kyle replied, concern evident in his tone. "I've messed up, man. I need to reach out to Clara. I want to see her, talk to her. I need to make things right," Ethan confessed, his throat tightening as he spoke. "Are you sure that's a good idea? You know how she feels about you right now," Kyle warned, but Ethan could hear the underlying support in his friend's voice. "I know, but I can't just sit here and do nothing. She's pregnant, Kyle. I can't let her face this alone. I need to show her that I care, that I can be there for her, even if it's just as a friend," Ethan replied, desperation creeping into his words. "All right, I'll help you," Kyle relented, "but you need to be prepared for anything. Clara's been through a lot, and she won't just welcome you back with open arms." Ethan nodded, more to himself than to Kyle. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said, determination simmering beneath the surface. Meanwhile, Clara sat in Olivia's cozy living room, her sister's warmth enveloping her like a soft blanket. The walls were painted a soothing shade of blue, adorned with family photographs and memories that brought a sense of peace amidst her turmoil. Clara cradled her growing belly, anxiety swirling inside her as she contemplated the future. What would life be like as a single mother? Would she be able to give Emma the life she deserved? "Clara, you're going to be an amazing mother," Olivia said, sensing her sister's unease. "You're strong, and you've always fought for what you believe in. I just wish things were different," Clara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ethan and we had dreams, plans. Now it feels like everything's fallen apart. You can still make new plans, Clara. This is your chance to start fresh. You have me, and we'll figure it out together," Olivia reassured her, placing a comforting hand on Clara's shoulder. Clara forced a smile, grateful for her sister's unwavering support. "I know. I just have this nagging feeling that I need to protect Emma from everything that's happened. I don't want her to grow up with the same kind of pain I experienced." Just then, the phone rang, breaking the moment. Clara's heart skipped a beat as she glanced at the caller ID. An unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Hello." A cold voice greeted her. "Ms. Bennett? This is Richard Larson, an attorney representing the estate of your late grandfather. We need to discuss a legal matter regarding your inheritance." Clara's stomach dropped. "What do you mean? Is there a problem?" "Yes, there's been a challenge to the will. We need you to come in for a meeting as soon as possible," Richard replied, his tone unyielding. "Wait, what? A challenge? By whom?" Clara stammered, panic setting in. The inheritance she had kept secret from Ethan suddenly felt like a ticking time bomb. Something she had hoped would secure a stable future for Emma was now in jeopardy. "I can't disclose that information over the phone. You'll need to come in for a formal meeting," he stated, the finality of his words leaving no room for argument. Clara hung up, her heart racing. "Olivia," she gasped, her voice shaking. "I just got a call about my inheritance. There's a legal challenge." "What, Clara, that's concerning. What do you mean a challenge?" Olivia asked, her brow furrowing in worry. Clara took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising tide of anxiety. "I don't know the details yet, but if someone is contesting the will, it could ruin everything. I can't let that happen. I need to make sure Emma has a secure future. Let's not jump to conclusions. We'll handle this together," Olivia said, her voice steady. "You're not alone in this. I'll go with you to the meeting." Clara nodded, grateful for her sister's support, but overwhelmed by the storm brewing around her. The thought of losing her inheritance felt like losing a lifeline. Was everything she had worked for, every decision made to protect her future, about to slip away? In the stillness of the room, Clara's mind raced. The challenge ahead felt insurmountable, and yet deep down, she knew she had to confront it head-on. With the prospect of motherhood looming closer, Clara realized that it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Emma and the life she wanted to build for her daughter. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the window, Clara took a moment to breathe. She would face this challenge, not just for herself but for Emma. And with Olivia by her side, she felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. A reminder that she was stronger than her fears and capable of fighting for her family's future. Clara sat in her attorney's office, the weight of the world pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. The walls were lined with bookshelves filled with legal tomes, their spines worn from years of use. She fidgeted with the silver bracelet around her wrist, a gift from her late grandfather, and felt a mix of anxiety and determination swirling within her. Across the desk, her attorney, a seasoned woman named Margaret, reviewed the documents with a furrowed brow. "Clara, I know this is overwhelming," Margaret began, her voice steady and reassuring, "but we need to discuss the legal challenge to your inheritance. It's crucial to understand what we're up against." Clara took a deep breath, ready to confront the reality of the situation. "What exactly are they contesting?" she asked, her voice wavering slightly. "The will itself," Margaret replied, looking up from the papers. "It seems that another party is claiming that your grandfather intended for the inheritance to be shared with them, which complicates your claim. Who could possibly have a right to it?" Clara felt a familiar surge of anger bubbling inside her, fueled by the injustice of it all. "I never even knew this person existed until now." Margaret nodded, noting the fire in Clara's eyes. "I understand your frustration. It's important to gather all the information we can. We need to establish that your claim is valid, especially since you are about to become a mother." Clara clenched her fists, envisioning the life she wanted to create for her daughter, Emma. "I won't let anyone take that away from me," she declared, her voice growing stronger. "I have to fight for her future, whatever it takes." Margaret smiled, sensing Clara's resolve. "That's the spirit. We'll gather evidence and prepare for a potential court battle. But I need you to stay focused and calm. This isn't just about the money. It's about your legacy and what you want to build for your daughter." As they continued discussing strategy, Clara's mind wandered to Ethan. She hadn't heard from him since her return to town, and although she had resolved to move on, memories of their life together occasionally crept in, uninvited. The way he used to smile at her, the way he used to hold her hand as if he could protect her from the world. But that was before everything fell apart. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan paced the floor of his sparse apartment, his thoughts consumed by Clara and the news he had just received. Kyle had called him earlier, revealing the turmoil Clara was facing with her inheritance. Ethan had felt a pang of guilt stab at his heart, knowing he had abandoned her when she needed him the most. "Why didn't I see this coming?" he murmured to himself, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I should have been there for her." Determined to make amends, Ethan picked up his phone and dialed Clara's number. The ringing echoed in his ears, each tone amplifying his anxiety. She answered on the third ring, her voice cautious. "Ethan," she said, a hint of surprise and trepidation lacing her tone. "Clara, I heard about the legal challenge," he said, his voice earnest. "I want to help. I know I messed up before, but I can't just sit back and do nothing." Clara's heart raced, a mix of emotions flooding her. "Help? How?" "You're the last person I expected to hear from right now," she replied, her voice edged with skepticism. "I know I don't deserve your trust, but I'm serious. I want to be there for you and Emma. I can help you with the legal aspects, or we can talk to an attorney together." "Whatever you need," he urged, his sincerity palpable. Clara hesitated, weighing her options. She felt a flicker of hope, but quickly extinguished it with doubt. "Ethan, this isn't just about legal advice. This is about my life and my daughter's future. You can't just swoop in and play the hero after everything that happened." "I know, and I understand if you don't want me involved," Ethan said, his voice low. "But I want to try. I want to make this right between us, even if it's just for Emma." "Right for Emma?" Clara echoed, her heart aching at the thought. "What if you're just looking for a way to alleviate your guilt? I can't trust you, not when it comes to her." Ethan's silence hung heavy in the air, both of them grappling with the weight of their shared past. The memories of their arguments and misunderstandings flooded Clara's mind, each one a reminder of the pain he had caused. "Clara, please," he finally implored, his voice filled with desperation. "I've changed. I want to show you that I can be better. Just give me a chance." "Why should I?" she fired back, her emotions boiling over. "You left me when I needed you the most. You made your choices, Ethan, and they hurt me in ways you can't even imagine." "I know," he said, his voice breaking slightly, "and I regret every single moment of it. I've been a fool and I'm sorry, but I can't change the past. I can only try to be there for you now." Clara's heart softened slightly at his words, but her fear kept her guarded. "I need time to think," she said finally, her voice trembling. "This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about Emma. Take all the time you need, but please consider it," Ethan replied, the sincerity in his voice undeniable. "I'll be here when you're ready." As Clara hung up the phone, a storm of emotions raged within her. She felt torn, grappling with the desire to protect her daughter and the flickering hope that perhaps Ethan had truly changed. But trust was a fragile thing, and she wasn't ready to stake her future on the whims of their complicated history. Later that evening, Clara sat on the porch of Olivia's house, the twilight sky casting a soft glow over the familiar neighborhood. She watched the fireflies dance in the air, their tiny lights flickering like the hope she was struggling to hold on to. "Are you okay?" Olivia asked, stepping outside with a cup of herbal tea. She settled beside Clara, sensing the turmoil in her sister's heart. "No," Clara admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ethan called. He wants to help with the legal battle, but I don't know if I can trust him." Olivia took a sip of her tea, contemplating her words carefully. "Clara, trust your instincts. You know him better than anyone. He's made mistakes, but people can change. It's okay to let him in if you feel that's what's best for you and Emma." Clara shook her head, frustration bubbling to the surface. "What if he's just saying what I want to hear? What if he's only doing this to make himself feel better?" "That's a risk you'll have to assess," Olivia replied gently. "But you're strong, Clara. You've come so far already. You'll know what to do when the time comes." As the night deepened, Clara felt the weight of the choices ahead of her. The battle for her inheritance was just beginning, but it was intertwined with the struggle for her heart and the future she wanted for Emma. She knew she had to navigate the murky waters ahead carefully, balancing her desire for independence with the possibility of reconciliation. Clara sat at the dining room table in Olivia's cozy home, the sunlight filtering through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns on the wooden surface. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint scent of lavender from the vase in the corner, creating an atmosphere of warmth and comfort. Clara's fingers traced the rim of her cup as her mind raced with thoughts of the community center she envisioned. "Clara, you have to do this," Olivia urged, her voice firm yet encouraging. "You're not just building a place for others. You're building a future for yourself and Emma." Clara looked up, her hazel eyes meeting her sister's earnest gaze. "But what if I fail? What if I can't handle it all? I'm still scared about being a single mother. This is a huge responsibility." Olivia leaned forward, her elbows resting on the table. "You're stronger than you think. Remember how you always used to organize those charity drives in high school? You have that spark, Clara. You can do this, and you'll have help." Clara took a deep breath, considering her sister's words. She had always been resourceful, but the weight of her past with Ethan loomed heavily in her mind. The uncertainty of her inheritance only added to her fears. Yet, as she thought about the women she could help, those who might be navigating similar struggles, her resolve began to solidify. "Okay," she finally said, her voice tinged with determination. "I'll start planning the community center." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Clara immersed herself in research, gathering information on nonprofit organizations, local resources, and potential funding avenues. Olivia helped her brainstorm ideas, and together they created a vision board plastered with images of strong women, children playing, and words like hope, community, and strength. One afternoon, Clara found herself in the local library, surrounded by stacks of books and pamphlets. She jotted down notes, her pen flying across the page, when suddenly, a familiar voice interrupted her focus. "Clara?" She looked up to see Ethan standing there, his expression uncertain. He wore a simple gray shirt and jeans, a stark contrast to the tailored suits he used to favor. There was a vulnerability in his eyes that made her heart flutter with conflicting emotions. "What are you doing here?" Clara asked, keeping her tone neutral. "I came to see you," he replied, stepping closer. "I wanted to talk about everything. Can we sit?" Reluctantly, Clara nodded and motioned to the empty table next to her. They settled into the worn chairs, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. "I heard you're working on a community center," Ethan began, his voice earnest. "That's amazing. You've always had a passion for helping others." Clara crossed her arms, resisting the urge to let his compliment soften her. "Thanks. It's a way for me to create something positive, especially for single mothers like me." Ethan shifted in his seat, his gaze dropping to the table. "I want to be part of that. I want to help you, Clara. I've been thinking a lot about my mistakes, about how I didn't support you during the pregnancy. I want to change that." She raised an eyebrow, skepticism creeping in. "You think that just because you want to help now, everything will magically be okay. It doesn't work that way, Ethan." "I know," he admitted, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "But I'm trying. I've spoken to your attorney about the legal issues surrounding your inheritance. I want to support you through this, too." Clara's heart raced at the mention of her inheritance. "You spoke to my attorney? Why?" "I want to understand what you're going through. I care about you and Emma. I want to be involved in her life. And if that means fighting for your rights, then I'm all in," he said, his voice steady. Clara felt a flicker of hope mixed with doubt. "And why should I trust you again, Ethan? What's different now?" He met her gaze, his expression sincere. "I've realized how selfish I was. I took you for granted, and I realize now that I need to be better. I can't change the past, but I can try to make amends. I want to be there for both of you." Clara's mind raced as she considered his words. Part of her longed for the connection they once shared, but she was still haunted by the scars of their marriage. "It's not that simple. You need to prove that you've changed." Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "Then let me help with the center. I can use my connections to get funding, and I can help organize events. If you give me a chance, I can show you." She hesitated, torn between her desire to believe him and her instinct to protect herself. Finally, she exhaled slowly. "All right, you can help, but this doesn't mean I'm ready to forgive you. We'll take it one step at a time." "Fair enough," he replied, a flicker of relief crossing his face. "Thank you, Clara. I won't let you down." Over the next few weeks, Clara and Ethan worked side by side, planning the community center. They met frequently, discussing ideas and strategies. Ethan's business acumen proved invaluable, and Clara found herself appreciating his input more than she expected. "What about hosting a launch event?" Ethan suggested one afternoon as they sat in a coffee shop, brainstorming. "We could invite local businesses and community leaders. It would help raise awareness and funds." Clara nodded, her enthusiasm growing. "That could work. We could also include a panel of single mothers to share their stories. It would give the event a personal touch." "Exactly," Ethan grinned, his energy infectious. "You're onto something great here, Clara." As they collaborated, Clara noticed subtle changes in Ethan. He seemed more attentive, genuinely interested in her ideas, and he was quick to support her decisions. During their meetings, they often exchanged laughter and shared memories, which gradually began to dissolve some of the tension that had existed between them. One evening, as they wrapped up a particularly productive session, Clara leaned back in her chair, her heart feeling lighter than it had in months. "I never thought we'd be doing this together," she admitted, a shy smile creeping onto her face. "Neither did I," Ethan replied, leaning closer. "But I'm glad we are. Feels right." Clara's pulse quickened at his words. She could see glimpses of the man she once loved, but she also knew she had to remain cautious. Just remember, this is about Emma and the center. We're not here to rekindle anything else. She reminded him, her tone firm. Of course, he said, his expression serious. I respect that. I just want to be part of your lives in a way that's meaningful. As they continued their work, Clara couldn't deny the chemistry that flared between them. Moments of laughter turned into lingering glances, and Clara often found herself lost in the depth of Ethan's gaze. But she remained vigilant, reminding herself of the hurt from their past. One afternoon, Clara found herself sitting on a park bench near the town square, a notebook in her lap, jotting down ideas for the center. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden hue over the landscape. She watched as families played nearby, children laughing and running freely, and a warmth spread through her heart. Suddenly, she felt a presence beside her. She looked up to see Ethan standing there, his expression soft. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all," she replied, closing her notebook. For a few moments, they sat in silence, absorbing the beauty around them. Finally, Clara broke the quiet. "It's all happening so fast. Part of me is excited, and part of me is terrified." Ethan turned to her, his gaze unwavering. "That's completely normal. You're taking a huge step, and it's okay to feel both things. Just remember, you're not alone in this." Clara nodded, appreciating his words. "Thank you for being here, Ethan. It means a lot." He smiled, a genuine warmth spreading across his face. "I'm here for you, Clara. Always." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Clara realized that while the shadows of the past still lingered, there was a flicker of hope for a brighter future. With each passing day, she felt herself reclaiming pieces of her life, not just for herself, but for Emma too. And maybe, just maybe, she could learn to trust Ethan again, one cautious step at a time. Clara Bennett stood in the midst of what would soon become the community center for single mothers, her heart swelling with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The once vacant building, a relic of a forgotten time, was now buzzing with energy as local women gathered, each with their own stories of resilience and hope. Clara had envisioned this place as a sanctuary, a space where women could find support and empowerment, and today marked the beginning of that dream taking shape. As Clara surveyed the room, she noticed a group of women brainstorming ideas for workshops. They were animated, their laughter and chatter filling the air. Clara approached them, her presence commanding their attention. "Hey everyone, I just wanted to say how thrilled I am to see you all here," she began, her voice steady yet warm. "This center is for you. Together, we can create a safe place where we can share our experiences and lift each other up." One woman, a bright-eyed mother named Sophie, spoke up. "Clara, I've been thinking we could start with some parenting classes. Maybe even a support group for those of us who are navigating single motherhood. It would mean so much to have a space where we can talk about the challenges we face." Clara nodded enthusiastically. "That's a fantastic idea, Sophie. We can work on setting up a schedule. And what about workshops on financial literacy? I think it's crucial for us to feel empowered to manage our own finances." The room erupted in agreement, the women buzzing with ideas and possibilities. Clara felt a surge of empowerment rush through her. She was no longer just a woman grappling with her past. She was a leader, a beacon of hope for others. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan stood in his office, staring blankly at the stacks of papers on his desk. The weight of his past mistakes pressed down on him like a heavy fog. He had spent the last few weeks trying to make amends, and though he had made progress, he still felt the distance between him and Clara. They were working together on the legal battle, but the emotional barriers remained. Kyle entered the office, a casual grin on his face. "You look like you've seen a ghost, man. What's eating you up?" Ethan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I just can't shake this feeling that I'm still not doing enough. Clara's fighting for her inheritance, and I want to be there for her. I want to prove that I've changed." Kyle leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. "You're doing more than most would, you know. Just being there for her during this time shows growth. But you need to be careful. You don't want to overstep." Ethan nodded, grateful for Kyle's perspective. "I know. I just wish I could turn back time and do things differently. We had something special, Kyle. I don't want to lose that completely. Back at the community center, Clara wrapped up the meeting, her heart light. As she walked toward the exit, she felt a familiar presence behind her. Turning, she saw Ethan approaching, a hesitant smile on his face. "Clara," he began, his voice softer than she remembered. "I hope I'm not interrupting. I just wanted to see how everything's going." She studied him for a moment, recalling the man she fell in love with and the man she had fought to separate herself from. "It's going well," she replied cautiously. "The women here are incredible. They inspire me every day." Ethan's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "That's amazing. I'd love to help out if you need any support, whether it's with legal matters or just anything, really." Clara felt a flicker of warmth in her chest but quickly extinguished it. "I appreciate that, Ethan, but I'm not sure how much help you can offer with the emotional side of things. I know I messed up, but I'm here now. I want to show you that I'm committed to being a better person. Not just for you, but for Emma too." His sincerity struck a chord within her, and Clara found herself torn between her lingering feelings and the protective wall she had built around her heart. "Let's focus on the legal issues for now," she said, her tone firm yet not unkind. "We can talk about the rest later." Ethan nodded, the disappointment evident in his eyes. "Okay, just know that I'm here for you, Clara." Clara turned to leave, feeling the weight of their unresolved emotions hanging in the air. She stepped outside, the cool breeze brushing against her skin, offering a moment of clarity. As the court date approached, tension filled the air. Clara and Ethan entered the courtroom together, a shared determination evident in their expressions. Clara felt a knot in her stomach as they took their seats, glancing around at the unfamiliar faces, including the opposing party who had contested her inheritance. "Do you think they'll have a strong case?" Clara asked Ethan, her voice barely above a whisper. "They might, but we've got a solid argument. Just remember to stay calm and focused." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, and she felt a jolt of warmth at the gesture. As the proceedings began, Clara listened intently to the arguments presented by the opposing counsel. The words swirled around her, but all she could think about was Emma's future, what it would mean if she lost this case. After a tense back and forth, the judge called for a recess. Clara and Ethan stepped outside, the weight of the courtroom pressing down on them. "That was intense," Clara said, exhaling deeply. "I didn't expect it to feel so personal." Ethan looked at her, his expression serious. "I know it's hard, but we're in this together. You're not alone." Clara glanced up at him, searching for the man she had once loved. "I just hope it all works out. For Emma's sake." Ethan nodded, his gaze unwavering. "We'll fight for her. Promise." As they stood there, Clara felt the tension between them shift slightly, the air thick with unspoken words. Just then, a figure approached them. A tall man with an air of authority, his expression grave. "Ms. Bennett," he called, his voice cutting through the moment. Clara turned, her heart racing. "Yes, I'm here regarding the contested inheritance," he stated, his tone serious. "I have important information that could impact your case." Ethan stepped protectively in front of Clara. "Who are you?" "I'm Richard Larson, a lawyer representing the interests of your grandfather's estate," the man replied, his eyes shifting between Clara and Ethan. "I believe you need to hear what I have to say." Clara felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean? What information could change anything?" Richard took a deep breath, preparing to reveal the shocking details that could alter the course of Clara's life. "Your grandfather's will contain stipulations that you may not be aware of. Clauses that could affect your inheritance and how it's distributed." Clara's heart pounded in her chest. As she exchanged glances with Ethan, uncertainty loomed, and she realized that the battle for her inheritance was far from over. Clara sat in her attorney's office, a heavy weight settling in her chest as she listened to the words coming from Tom, her lawyer. The legal challenge to her inheritance felt like a storm cloud hovering over her future. Thoughts of her daughter, Emma, swirled in her mind, and the fear of losing the stability she hoped to provide gnawed at her. She had worked so hard to reclaim her life, and now this threat loomed large. "Clara, I know this is overwhelming," Tom said, his voice steady yet sympathetic. "But you need to understand that there may be more to this than just a financial dispute. The person contesting the will has a personal connection to your grandfather." "What do you mean?" Clara asked, her curiosity piqued despite the anxiety gripping her. Tom leaned forward, resting his elbows on the polished wooden desk. "The individual is claiming they have insights into your grandfather's intentions, particularly regarding his desire to support the community. It's not just about the inheritance. They believe the legacy he left should serve a greater purpose." Clara's brow furrowed as she processed this information. "What kind of purpose?" "They want to ensure that the funds are used to foster community ties, perhaps focusing on the kind of projects your grandfather would have supported, like a community center," Tom explained. Clara's heart raced. She had been pouring her energy into establishing a community center for single mothers, a project that had become a beacon of hope for her. Could it be that her grandfather had envisioned something similar? She felt a flicker of hope amid her turmoil. "Could we reach out to this person?" she asked, a new determination in her voice. "Maybe we can find some common ground." Tom nodded. "Absolutely. I'll arrange a meeting. It's worth exploring their perspective." The following week, Clara found herself sitting across from a stranger in a small cafe, the ambience warm but filled with an undercurrent of tension. The individual contesting her inheritance was a woman in her late 40s, with striking blue eyes that mirrored Clara's own. Her name was Margaret, and as they exchanged pleasantries, Clara felt a strange sense of familiarity. "Thank you for meeting with me, Clara," Margaret said, her tone earnest. "I know this must be difficult for you, but I believe we share a common goal." "What do you mean?" Clara asked, cautious. "I knew your grandfather well. In fact, I worked alongside him on several community projects," Margaret revealed. "He often spoke of his dreams for the town and the importance of supporting those who were struggling. When I learned about the will and the way it was structured, I felt compelled to act." Clara took a deep breath, the air heavy with unspoken words. "So you're not doing this out of greed? You're not trying to take what's mine?" Margaret shook her head, her expression earnest. "No, Clara. I want to honor your grandfather's legacy. I believe that the funds should be used to create something meaningful for the community, not just handed over to someone who may not understand his vision." Clara felt her heart soften. "I'm creating a community center for single mothers. It's a project I've been passionate about since I returned home." A smile broke across Margaret's face. "That's incredible. Your grandfather would have been proud. He often spoke of helping single parents and providing them with resources to thrive." The two women began to discuss the potential of combining their efforts. Margaret shared stories of her work with Clara's grandfather, painting a vivid picture of the man who had shaped so much of the town's foundation. As their conversation flowed, Clara felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to crumble. "Maybe we can find a way to honor his legacy together," Clara suggested, her voice steady with newfound determination. "I want to keep the inheritance, but I'm willing to allocate a portion of it toward community projects." As he would have wanted, Margaret's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That sounds like a beautiful compromise. I truly believe your grandfather would have wanted to see the community thrive, and you're the perfect person to lead that charge." As they finalized their plans, Clara felt a sense of relief wash over her. The legal battle that had once felt insurmountable now seemed to be shifting toward a collaborative effort, one that would not only secure her inheritance but also fulfill a dream that had been buried under the weight of her past. Later that evening, Clara sat in her sister Olivia's living room, sharing the news. "I can't believe how everything turned out," she said, her eyes shining with excitement. "Margaret is on my side now, and we're going to work together to create something significant for the community." Olivia smiled, pride evident on her face. "That's incredible, Clara. You've turned a potential disaster into an opportunity. I always knew you had it in you." Just then, the doorbell rang, interrupting their moment. Clara's heart skipped a beat when she opened the door to find Ethan standing there, looking anxious and uncertain. "Clara, can we talk?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Clara hesitated, her emotions tangled in a knot of confusion. "What do you want, Ethan?" "I heard about the legal challenge," he began, stepping inside, his gaze earnest. "I want to help you. I know I messed up, but I can't stand the thought of you struggling alone." Clara crossed her arms defensively. "You didn't care before. Why now?" "Because I realized what I lost," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "I've been thinking about everything, the way I treated you, my priorities. I want to be there for you and Emma. I want to make things right." Olivia, sensing the tension, decided to intervene. "Clara, maybe it's worth hearing him out. You're working on something important, and if he's sincere, he could be an asset." Clara shot her sister a grateful glance but remained guarded. "Fine, but this doesn't mean I trust you." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "I'll do whatever it takes to earn that trust back. I want to help you navigate this situation with Margaret and ensure that Emma has the best future possible." As they sat down together, the three began discussing plans for the community center and how they could incorporate both Clara's vision and her grandfather's legacy. Clara felt a spark of hope as they collaborated, the tension between her and Ethan slowly dissipating as they focused on a shared goal. Days turned into weeks, and the community center project gained momentum. Clara and Ethan worked side by side, their interactions filled with a mix of laughter and shared memories. With each passing day, Clara felt the walls around her heart begin to crumble further, replaced by a sense of camaraderie she had thought lost forever. The day of the community center's grand opening arrived, and Clara stood in the garden, watching as Emma played joyfully with other children. The vibrant flowers surrounding them mirrored the hope that blossomed in Clara's heart. She turned to see Ethan and Olivia approaching, their expressions filled with pride. "Look at her," Ethan said softly, a smile spreading across his face. "She's so happy." Clara nodded, a sense of peace enveloping her. "We did this together, you know. Emma deserves a place where she can grow and thrive." "And she will," Ethan replied, his gaze steady. "We'll make sure of that." In that moment, Clara realized that their journey had transformed not only her life but also Ethan's. They had navigated the complexities of their past, finding common ground in their desire to create a better future for Emma. As they stood together, Clara understood that love, purpose, and community were the true legacies they would leave behind, far more valuable than any inheritance could ever be.